lot of action around here today, huh?
Let's pause for a moment. Harry dresses up as a police officer to spy on McAllister's house. Those who are watching this movie for the first time can already tell from this exact shot that the police officer we see here is not the real one. He has a pin on his tie in the shape of a gun. I made some effort to figure out what the gold pin exactly represents, and as it seems it's Smith & Wesson Model 10 revolver, one of the most popular of the 20th century, and the police officer we see later in this movie does not have a similar revolver pin, which plain as a day means that Harry is not a part of police department. Amid the chaos, a sword fight breaks out on the stairs between the kids. Sword fights are actually strongly associated with pirates and their battles, and as we can see, the boys are really fond of this subject because later in that same movie, there's a pirate flag in the treehouse, and it probably didn't end up there by accident. If we pay attention to this exact scene, we'll notice that Fuller is the only one who remained to play Monopoly. Just look at his reaction when his sister enters the room. By shuddering and fiddling around the board, we can suspect when nobody sees him, he starts cheating at the game. This one painting, this one, also this, and few more, all depict still lives. These paintings did not end up here by accident. The symbolism of still lives is transience. The paintings show us that nothing is there forever. Isn't this flawlessly in line with the plot and moral of this movie? Like, this movie is a life lesson that the family is not a permanent thing and you should appreciate it at every moment of your life. Kevin learns this lesson the hard way when they fly away to Paris without him. A brilliant detail right there. Over Kevin and Jeff, there's a Chicago Bulls sticker, a non-popular NBA team. Buzz is also a fan of the Bulls and even has a Michael Jordan poster in his room. As we can see, those siblings are fans of the same team, except of course for Kevin, who is not interested in sports. Buzz's shelf also hides more secrets. Here we can notice that he has a box of ant farm. Presumably before the tarantula he was breeding ants, and it's a piece of a cake to guess what fate awaited them when he decides to leave the spider alone for a few next days. Above his desk, there's also a poster of Indiana Jones. In this shot of a conversation between the siblings, they mention Buzz.
You know what I should pack?
Buzz told you, cheek face.
You may have missed it, but he overheard them talking about him and had a mild reaction. A barely noticeable detail, but kudos to the actor. The boys gawk through the window at Marley's clearing of the snow. Remember what Buzz says here because it will be crucial to understand a few details later in the movie.
That's him. Back in '58, murdered his whole family with the snow shovel.
The character of Marley has a hidden meaning. In literature, there is a known character of Jacob Marley. He is a character from A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens and has quite a lot in common with Kevin's Marley. Jacob's role was to warn Ebenezer Scrooge how his life would look like if he continued being insensitive to others. And at the end of this movie, Marley does the same exact thing. He explains to the young man how lonely his life would be without his family. The pizza delivery man appears on the screen. You probably know that the Little Nero's Pizza is the real world Little Caesars. However, notice what's written on the car. If the delivery man doesn't make it in 20 minutes, whoever ordered it won't pay a cent. That's why the whole pizza guy is in such a hurry. When it comes to blouse with Buzz, Kevin spills milk on their passports and tickets. His father quickly comes to their aid. Notice that by mistake, he throws Kevin's documents into the bin. Here we see how his passport gets tangled up around with tissues, and there's a ticket with Kevin's name on it. It would explain why later on airport staff did not spot a thing. In this scene, everyone is looking without compassion at Kevin. Well, almost everyone. Only the father shows understanding. He's the only one who breaks eye contact. It means that Kevin has a great relationship with his father. It's all built up from the beginning of the film. Later on, when the young man imagines the faces of others, his father is the only one who does not appear there. Kevin does not have any negative memories of him. And we will be back to this shot later as it contains one more intriguing detail. So we return to Harry. He's strangely looking around the corners of the room in the background. He checks if there are any surveillance cameras in the house, and that's another clue that he is the bad guy. In the attic, we can spot a mug with the logo of the Chicago Cubs, an American baseball team. The family oversleeps and they have to hurry to catch their flight. There are a few interesting details here. Peter goes up the same stairs twice. Frank, when he tells Peter, be positive and I'll be the realist,
There's no way on earth we're gonna make this plane. It leaves in 45 minutes.
Think positive, Frank.
You be positive, I'll be realistic.
actually has a point. Their plane leaves in 45 minutes. They live in Vinetka. The trip from there to O'Hare Airport takes at least 30 minutes. It's practically impossible for them to load up their cars and get to the airport on time. Let's rewind in time to where they are still in sleep. The family does not wake up on time because the power went out at night and therefore the alarm clock didn't ring. That actually doesn't make any sense as the clock says battery backup, which means it's powered by batteries. So Kevin wakes up in an empty house and starts a little bit of exploring. He watches a film on TV called Angels with Filthy Souls with a bowl of ice cream next to his hand. The film doesn't actually exist, but its name refers to an actual one, Angels with Dirty Faces. On the VHS player, the film Anthology of Bruce Springsteen is being played. Springsteen was actually an American guitarist, singer and a rock composer who was very popular in the times in which Home Alone is set. Below there is laying the continuing adventures of the Rolling Stones, a document featuring the rock group's Rolling Stones, showcasing the period from the establishment of the group in 1962 to the release of their latest album, Steel Wheels, in 1989. Someone in the McAllister household is a very interested guy in rock musicians. Kevin enters Buzz's room. A devil-shaped pendant hangs there. It perfectly reflects the character of Kevin's brother. On the wall there is also a poster of Ice-T, an American rapper known as the precursor of street rap. It simply does not surprise me at all that Buzz is a fan of his work. In the box of Kevin's older brother, there are several items stashed, such as a copy of Playboy magazine. I find out it's the July 1989 installment. Kevin, full of fear, runs outside and perceives an open garage. Peter assured his wife that he had everything under his control. Eventually, he reminds himself about the garage, but if we were observant enough, right from the start, he forgot to close the garage doors. As Kevin reflects, he remembers people who offended him in some way. Among those, we don't witness his father as one of them. The creators wanted to remind us about him, so after the cut, when Kevin is jumping on the bed, the word "Dad" is on the bookshelf. A really nice detail. Kevin takes Buzz's figures and puts them on the window and then proceeds to shoot at them. Did you spot something bizarre in this shot? Well, look here. Kevin closes the wrong eye to aim with the gun. Anyway, it does not matter as he still doesn't miss a single shot, but you know, a cool detail, I guess. In the first scene of Harry and Marv sitting in their van, there are plenty of decent details. The van they drive is a 1986 Dodge Ram, which lets us assume that Marv and Harry stole it too. They aren't just simply stealing for fun, they simply are on the verge of poverty. Such a van, even a used model, would have cost quite a lot in the 90s, let alone maintaining it. Some owners reported spending around 30 grand to keep their vans functioning. Marv and Harry are penniless and can't afford proper Burglars tools, which is why they use a crowbar. It's obvious they stole the vehicle. On the van, there is the name of the company, OK Plumbing and Heating, which is a reference to another production, Lethal Weapon, and the character of Leo Getz, played by Joe Pesci, who also plays Harry in Home Alone.
Okay.
The phone number on the van, JK5135 is a fake number, as the JK5 would translate to 3 5s, a generic fake phone number used in movies. It was invented to prevent jokers from calling on numbers used in 15s movies. The character of Harry could also be a recall to antagonism from the Scooby-Doo series, specifically T.J. Davenport, who also pretends to be a police officer and bears a strong resemblance to Harry. Kevin's family lands in Paris during the day, which is utter nonsense, and I'll tell you why. When the plane takes off from Chicago, it's morning. The flight from Chicago to Paris takes about 7 to 8 hours, and Paris time is 7 hours ahead of Chicago's time. In terms of that, the family would be in Paris around 1 or 2 a.m., but when the plane arrives in Paris, it's somehow daylight. Of course, it's just a movie, a comedy to be specific, so it's not such a faulty mistake here. Kate calls calls the crisis center to check on her son. During the call, this man eats a donut, but shortly after the cut, the donut is placed aside and he holds a cap. And pay attention to this police badge, Sergeant Balzac. It's a wink to a more mature audience. Balzac sounds phonetically very similar to Balzac, which in Dutch translates to the scrotum and to English, testicles. So it's no coincidence that this unkind man has such a surname. The center sends a police officer to check if Kevin is okay. As we know, almost everyone who drives up to McAllister's house has to hit the statue. It happened to the pizza guy, so to the policeman too. We don't witness this exact moment, but there we see the overturned statue. Our youngster goes to the pharmacy to buy a toothbrush. The story of the disappearance of his previous one is pretty interesting, and the film reveals what might have happened to it right at the beginning. When the whole family is getting ready for Paris, Kevin can't quite figure out how to do it because he has never packed himself.
Pack my suitcase?
His sister then throws at him, "Mom will pack you anyway."
Kev, what are you so worried about? You know Mom's gonna pack your stuff anyway.
And that's what actually happened. Kevin's things are with his family in Paris. Marley enters the store with a wound on his arm. It isn't shown how the elder one injured himself, but I am able to answer it for you. Constant snow shoveling and working with a shovel, as old Marley did, causes blisters on the hands and then they possibly burst. It's a fairly common wound. Old Marley came to the pharmacy to buy a bandage, the same one he has on his hand during the church scene. Kevin escapes and accidentally steals a toothbrush from the store. When the salesman calls the police, you may have missed that the stopped person also turns around after Kevin. The policeman chases after the young boy, and take a look what happens to his notebook. When he falls, it flies out of his hand and falls to the ground next to him. We see a shot of Kevin a moment later, and the policeman's notebook is no longer next to him. My guess is that the hockey player mistook the pack for the police officer's wallet. However, this woman got away with getting her details taken, absolute winner in this case. Marv's hobby is easily spottable. Although some may have missed it, the carter really enjoys collecting snow globes. He keeps his collection in his car. Thieves start following Kevin, but his smartass hides in a Christmas nativity scene. He uses a blue blanket to hide, which he took from the other side, as there is this symmetrical blanket just like the other one. The lamb is very surprised by the youngsman's move. Kevin tricks the burglars by throwing a mannequin party. He used a Michael Jordan poster for this act. Remember it because in the later stage of this video, it will be useful for you to understand a certain detail. The family in Paris is watching It's Wonderful Life in French. Buzz talks to his sister and says that Kevin will be fine because
We live in the most boring street in the United States of America.
it's the first time that he tells us that the old Marley is not evil and the Buzz was just making up stories to scare Kevin. Buzz would not have called the neighborhood the most boring if he lived in the Shovel Slayers neighborhood. Moreover, the fact that McAllister house is an incredibly peaceful neighborhood caused Marv and Harry to choose this era for the robbery, because simply no one expected burglaries here. Pay attention that both Marv and the pizza guy's body scared fall into the same bins. It seems that between those scenes, Kevin had to go out and just pick them up. Kate persuades the elderly woman to exchange tickets. In desperation, she even offers her earrings and rings. The older woman, under the persuasion, agrees to her offer, but despite being shown as stingy, she didn't take any jewelry from Kevin's mother in the end. We see that Kate still has both earrings and rings on. Watching Home Alone in slow motion, my attention was drawn to a strange white balls that appeared next to the spider. Here one is lying next to it and the other flies behind the spider. I didn't know what it was all about, but after a moment of research I find out. The production team threw small white balls at the spider to guide it. Interesting. Kevin this time does his trick with fireworks and Marv, and utters a quote from the movie. Note that the young man has finally learned the words. At one point, the young man comes up with an idea that he will decorate the Christmas tree. But did you know that the tree Kevin decorates is exactly the same one he cut down from the garden a few minutes Kevin is Elia? Literally, through the whole film, there is one trick that producers have used. You may have missed it because it's very subliminal. The movie Home Alone was directed in such way as to be most associated with Christmas. Not only through the plot, but also through the artistic style. That is why there is red color in practically every shot. It is a technique which is intended to have a subliminal effect on us and create associations. It works exactly the same as in marketing. Coca-Cola creates associations with the color red by placing it practically everywhere, Pepsi with blue, and so on. Wherever we stop the film, we will see something red. Kevin decides to enter the church. Notice that the interior of the church does not match the outside, which must mean that the scenes inside were recorded somewhere else. The stained glass window does not consist of the same number of panels. Here it has 4 panels, but on the inside it has 7. After talking to Old Man Marley, Kevin quickly returns home. The Christmas decorations turn on behind him, which means that Marv and Harry are close because at the beginning of the film, Harry could turn on and off the lights. In addition, see how carefree Kevin is. When he left the house to go to the church, he did not close the front doors. It's somewhat of a strange behavior because he knows that the thieves are lurking in the area. In Kevin's plunge, a funny mistake is in the word ornaments. Kevin thinks it is written ornaments. Kevin goes on to set up traps. Let's deep dive into them as most were hinted in earlier stages of the film. Setting up toy cars Kevin took from his father's words.
Pick up those micro machines that are all over in there? Aunt Leslie stepped on one and almost broke her neck.
Dropping the iron through the window on the laundry was hinted at in the scene with the soldiers. At the beginning of the film, it is said that Kevin made Christmas bubbles with fishing hooks.
I was making ornaments out of fish hooks.
Therefore, poor Marv stood not only on Christmas bubbles, but also on hooks. When praying before meals, Kevin crosses himself by first touching his right shoulder. What's so interesting about this? Catholics cross themselves by touching the left arm first. Touching the right arm first belongs to another branch of Christianity, namely the Orthodox. Of course, Kevin is just a kid who probably doesn't know this difference, but it's a nice catch either way. When Marv and Harry approach the door to deceive Kevin, they say such words.
It's Santa Claus.
As we know earlier in this movie, the young one will not forge the Santa
Or I
Claus
also know
text.
that you work for him.
He knows that they are employees. What a great payoff. And do you remember when I told you earlier to keep Michael Jordan riding on a train in mind? What is he still doing in Buzz's room if Kevin used him as a decoy? A funny mistake from the creator's side. The thieves can't cope with Kevin. He escapes and on Harry's finger there is a visible engagement ring. I don't think it was stolen because Harry wears it, which signifies engagement. The thief has or had a wife. A characteristic element of his character is that strange mumbling sound when he can't get something right. I wonder what it was and whether it might be something of much greater deal. Finally, I managed to find it. The reason why he mumbles is that Joe Pesci, the actor playing Harry, couldn't resist himself from cursing behind the scenes. The director even had a jar for curses and filled it in only one day. On YouTube, you can find a film that adds up subtitles to his mumbling, titled Joe Pesci Subtitled.
What? What? What happened?
Marv and Harry finally catch Kevin and Marley comes to the rescue like some hero and boinks them in the head with a shovel. Finally, part of Buzz's words from the beginning of the movie came true and the old man becomes a shovel slayer. Plus, why didn't they even turn off the sink? It kinda annoyed me a bit, I'm not gonna lie. Let's pause here for a moment. On the table there were cookies and milk left for the Santa the day before. Every year, either mom or dad would take the cookies away, and in that way, keeping Kevin in the belief that Santa does exist. Since there isn't anyone at home, no one took the snacks, and that's finally how Kevin may have figured out that Santa actually does not exist. So, everything ends well. Kate and the family returns to Kevin, and old Merrily reconciles with his son. In this scene, he no longer has a bandage on his hand. And did you wonder why Marley constantly shovels snow and sprinkles salt? Where did it come from? We don't exactly know, but from the clues left by the creators, we can create a fairly credible theory. His wife is not mentioned in the movie. We only know about the granddaughter and the son. Combining this with the fact that he is crazy about shoveling, we can think that this is related to trauma. His wife may have died in an accident due to slipping on the snow. He doesn't want it to happen to anyone else. Old Marley might be an even more tragic character than we thought. Subscribe to the channel to not miss my other movie analysis.